This conference will now be recorded.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ann Velisis. I'm the City Council President, and I am serving in the role of running tonight's meeting because Mayor Pat Cox is not able to be present. So we're beginning our meeting at 5:30, and we will begin with the roll call. Councillor Burns,
Present.
Councillor Pogswood,
Tim here.
Councillor Tidy,
Present.
and Councillor Velisis, I am present. Even though I'm running the meeting, I remain a voting member of the council. Councillor Rask is not able to attend today, and Councillor Webb is not yet present. So let us continue with the Pledge of Allegiance. Flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And we have a few items that we have to add to tonight's agenda. We have a couple of right-of-way permissions that have been added that are in our packet. So let's make those numbers 4. And we also want to add, we have a citizen here to comment. Larry, are you going to comment on something on the agenda or some other topic?
I had hoped it would be on the agenda, but it is not.
Okay, so we will have a citizen comment. Actually, let's just put it on. I would say just put it on at the outset. Are everybody okay with that? Okay. Okay, so let us, any other additions to the agenda? Okay, let us begin with citizen comment. Larry, if you could come up to the desk, state your name and address for the record.
Does one typically sit or stand?
Sit.
Okay.
Make yourself comfortable.
Yeah, there you go, down so we can hear you.
Good evening. My name is Larry Skeels, and my address is P.O. Box 158, Port Orford, Oregon. Would you like a street address?
I think that's
So,
what
yeah,
we need
yeah,
to
usually
have,
street
yes.
address. Mhm.
I live at 42416 Sunset Place, Port Orford 97465.
Okay, thank you. Please tell us what's on your mind.
Members of the board, city administrator, guests online.
Yeah.
Um, Next week is our Jubilee. And on the 4th of July in the morning, we have our annual pancake breakfast. I'm speaking for the Rotary Club. I am honored to be the current president of the Rotary Club. And I bring you an invitation to come and enjoy our all-you-can-eat pancake breakfast on the 4th. We've done this for a number of years. All the money raised goes for scholarships for the local students. In addition, the Jubilee Committee inspired us this year. We're adding another event on Friday. On Friday evening from 4 to 8 in the community building, which we have reserved, which we plan to pay full rent, we will be holding an estate auction. There are members of our community who leave town or pass on, and they have many treasured belongings and that they no longer need or want, or their families don't. And so Rotary has been helping them pack up, clean up, and in exchange, kind of not a exactly, but they have gifted us these things, and then we turn around and we auction them to members of the community who can get these treasures at really low price and sometimes remember fondly the people who had them. So this event is from 4 to 8 in the community building. We plan to serve refreshments consisting of food, beer, and wine. The food will be prepared and served under the supervision of a licensed food handler. The wine will be served and beer, no hard liquor, under the what's the right name? The supervisor of, um, and the alcohol manager will be Chris Hawthorne, and he is a permitted server. We also have been in touch with OLCC and have the application completed and a check written to get a license. But the one last thing that we have to do is we need permission from the city to apply for the temporary sales permit for that window of a week from today, next Friday. If I didn't mention, it was on the 5th of July, Friday the 5th of July. And so our license says from 3 to 9, just to cover it 1 hour before and 1 hour after in case the alcohol is still out. So I brought all the paperwork by, including the liability insurance certificate and the sales license permit, brought them by City Hall. Apparently, Counselor Tim, it was not by the last Friday deadline, apparently. Uh, I, do you remember which day I brought it? I don't either, truthfully.
I couldn't tell you.
But it didn't make the agenda, so I'm asking
Yesterday?
for your approval. No, it wasn't yesterday, it was before that.
Okay,
It was earlier this week.
Yeah,
okay,
but it wasn't by the Friday deadline.
right.
So I'm asking for your approval, either you or the city manager or the chairman of the board or the employee, the clerk, or whoever is responsible for signing these, who I don't know, and I don't know your process, but, and I'm happy to answer any questions for you, or I'm happy to just get the signature and be on my way. So can I answer any questions? And I thank you for your consideration.
Absolutely.
Questions?
Thank you. I think that the usual process is we get those ahead of time. I assume staff vets them before they come to us, and then we get a chance to look at the situation to see if there's any issues, and then generally we approve them since it's really an OLCC matter. So have you guys had a chance to vet the actual application?
I haven't seen it.
Joseph?
It's, I think, still in my office in my inbox.
Uh-huh.
I can go check it real quick.
Mhm.
I brought a copy.
Uh-huh.
If you'd like a copy.
I think given that it's the time of the event is already planned and such, I mean, I know we don't like to have this kind of thing happen, but it would seem like
We're here.
we're here and we could do it, you know? Maybe what we could, what do you guys think about if we get a copy of this so we can see it and then we'll add it to our agenda? Does that make sense? And we can add it there after the right of ways? Tim, what's your thought on that?
Being that we're looking at two other ones that are put before us, I'd go along with it, but these are the kinds of problems that these cause,
Mhm.
and they'll just continue on and on and on if we continue to do business this way. So no offense to you, sir.
No.
It does create problems. So
I agree. And I would be with you in saying, being a hard nose, but knowing that
I understand.
these fine people have the event planned for next week, I feel like it
I
would be
understand.
good to,
We probably need to get the word out to all organizations for next year that
Yeah,
this type of
that
things
works.
won't be approved unless they meet our deadlines, but that's my
Yeah.
opinion
Right.
on that.
I'll second the motion.
Who
Okay.
made the motion?
we didn't really quite make a motion, but we'll put it onto the agenda. So Joseph, if you could at some point just get us copies, or if Larry has a copy, that's an easier way for you to copy it. We can see it.
Thank you for your consideration. I'll stick around.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank
And
you.
I'm happy to answer questions.
I think they're usually pretty straightforward. So thank you, Larry.
Thanks, Larry.
Okay, so now we are moving on to our first order of business, which is the supplemental budget for fiscal year 24. And we had a little bit of background on this at our last city council meeting. Melissa mentioned it, but Melissa or David, would you like to explain this to us?
Yeah, I think as there were things that were unaccounted for that we need to clean up in our 2024 budget before we can then move on and make sure that our 2025 budget is correct. And so David Johnson was kind enough to take care of that, since he is the one who was with us through our budgeting process for this. And if you notice, the page 1 of 1 is the memo of the steps that he has taken to make sure that this is rectified. The main thing was that we started this was the police car that we had, when the police car was crashed into, we were replacing that. And so the budget was under budget for that. And so as we did this, it wasn't accounted for in the current budget, which means when we roll it forward, the carryover to the next budget was not correct. And so we're going to get these things cleared up in our 2024 budget so that as we start our 2025, we can then make sure it's correct. David, do you want to add anything to that? David, did you want to add anything to that?
I can. Maybe I'll just go through from the beginning. Originally in the general fund for planning, the allocation for those employees were changed, so it was necessary to increase that spending authority in the planning in the personnel department so it's not over budget. We did that by, if you'll remember, earlier in the year, you did a supplemental resolution that pulled back the 95,000 transfer to parks. We're going to use that spending authority and transfer the 5,500 out of it into planning. The second issue in non-departmental, materials and services is estimated to be over budget as long, in addition to capital outlay. What we've seen in the materials and services, the auditing and accounting was increased by the auditors doing a special audit, and also for the additional work that I'd done. So we need to increase that line item by $30,000. This will also be funded from transferring the spending authority from the transfers. If you'll remember, earlier in the year, we also, the finance committee recommended that we did not make the transfer to the street capital improvement. So we'll use that spending authority coupled with so the remaining money in the transfer to parks to fund the materials and service, the 30,000 addition to auditing and accounting. Additionally, in capital outlays in the general fund, the audio and video equipment, which I want to say is working great, thank you, was not actually budgeted for, and this was kind of the residual that was left over, so it's necessary to transfer 15,000 to the capital outlay to cover that. Here again, we're used. I'm sorry, what was that?
That was budgeted last year, Dave. We got that last year done.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
remember budgeted for that actually,
I'm
but
just saying. I know I mean, I know because that was my baby trying to get this so I could do these meetings abroad. But like that's weird that didn't get paid. You know what I mean?
well,
With
and you're right,
2023,
great.
because that was budgeted. There's a line item. There was a line item that we used for that stuff. I thought last year.
and it was a very generous one because I remember, Greg, were going for broke and had like a big chunk of
I
change
think
to
we
make
had
sure.
20 and we used 15 and we got like a really killer system.
So where the problem comes from that is that last year it was budgeted and not all of the materials and supplies were purchased last year. There was 15,000 that was purchased to finish the project this year, and it has to go in this year's budget. So therefore, we need to put the money in capital outlay to cover it. Does that make sense, Greg?
Yes, sir. Yes,
It
sir.
was just the timing of when we received the invoices that made us put it in the current year rather than last year. So, and we thought it was all going to be paid for, so we didn't budget for it. But as, that's why they make supplemental budgets to fix those little things. Did that answer your question, Greg?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, moving on. We'll go to still in the general fund. It's going to be necessary to increase the transfer to public safety by 56,000. And we'll see that in public safety on page 10. You'll see the transfer increased by the 56,000. That's to cover the additional police officer. That was my screw up. You know, when we worked there before, we passed a resolution for the fourth officer as the traffic officer, and the resolution says once that position stops writing citations, then that position goes away. And that was kind of what I was working off of, but somehow we got 5 officers, and that officer wasn't budgeted for. So we need to add that into public safety, and that's the reason I created the additional transfer from the general fund. Uh, and also under reimbursements on page 10, the insurance company is paying 21,000 for replacement of the damaged car. And I'm just showing the receipt of that money so that that fund doesn't run in the negative. Additionally, in public safety, under personnel on page 11, I increased the police officer number 5 by 50,000. And of course, Social Security and PERS and health and dental was also increased. And all the capital outlay on page 10 also need to increase that by 18,000. Only 40,000 was budgeted, and the cost of the car is at 58,000. So increase that by 18,000. The additional resources that we transferred, the 56,000 we transferred in, plus the reimbursement from the insurance company will cover those increases, and that fund will be balanced. And the last item is needed to account for the $802,000 grant from the DEQ for the purchase of the watershed property, and I got that in there. That's basically what we have done to bring everything back into balance, so that we're in compliance with the budgeting laws. Does anyone have any questions about why and how?
Just need a moment to look at it here, David. 1 second.
Sure, sure.
It was
One
meant,
thing I would like to clear up, and at your last council meeting, it wasn't quite understood, but if the finance committee will remember, when we first started, I pointed out to them at that time that the personnel and public safety was going to be over budget. But at that time, I did not realize that the police car was being replaced. So I was using that 40,000 to balance the public safety. Once found out that the police car was actually being bought, well, then obviously we couldn't use that 40,000. That's what really constituted the getting this supplemental budget done.
I believe I heard Mr. Hobart say that the insurance company was going to give us 50,000 for that police car. He stated that in the last council meeting.
So what I have seen as we've turned in receipts and turned things in is I believe as that it's going to be about like $18,000 back, not 50 for that. So I think that was part of the situation because they, pardon me,
That's horrible insurance.
they turned everything in and they took as many of the sirens and the lights and the things off of the old vehicle to put on the new one. But that was something that had been budgeted of the 40 was for the vehicle, but then there wasn't the budget for
Correct.
the wires and the lights and the sirens and the remaining of that, and also the decaling, identifying the vehicle. That was an additional cost that wasn't allotted for.
I just wanted to bring that up because I was surprised when he said that he actually said State Farm was being very good about it. Do you recall that? Do you recall that, Gary, at
Yeah.
the last meeting?
Yeah.
And he mentioned 50,000, but anyway, that's here nor there.
Yeah, that's not what came out on the actual, but the things that I've
Okay,
been talking with Dina about, because they've sort of been trickling in, because they are also trying to adjust as we do it. So when we turn in invoices, then we get things back, but I haven't seen 50.
So we
understood.
try to get all of that done by the end of this fiscal year, all of that. Is that all going to be all that car replacement stuff, or is that trickle into the next year?
So they've estimated what they think is going to come back to us, but
Okay.
then if we turn in the receipts and it's a little less or a little more, they're going to adjust for that because they hadn't thought about the decaling and all that either.
Okay.
And so it'll be what we're owed for that.
I just noticed, and I don't know if this is just a matter of the exhibit, David, but for that watershed grant, I noticed a slight discrepancy in the number on I think the resources page and the outlay page. It's just a difference in $100. It's 802,699 and 802,799.
Ah,
I'm just pointing it out to you. I don't remember which one it is, but it's just one of those little things that could be it's not substantively different, but could be a fly in the ointment at some point.
well, it could be a problem. Let's see. Let me pull up
$699.
budget report. Exhibit A.
18 out of 26 and page 18 out of 26. So page 16 says 799, page 18 says 699, or 802 699.
So what I'm attempting to look at here is the budget report, and it shows 802,799 was received, and it actually has the expenditure under capital. And it says 802,699 is all that's been spent, so it's correct. But that was a good point, Ann. We actually received $100 more than we spent.
Okay. Well, as long as it's correct, and then we actually, if you recall, we received more that's still sitting there to spend. So in the grant, but in learning about the grant monies, we haven't really accounted for it yet because we haven't pushed it out yet. So.
And that will be probably something that once you receive it, then recognize it.
Yeah. Okay.
I would make a motion to approve supplemental budget 2024-08.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion or questions? Okay, I will call for the vote. Counselor Burns,
Yes.
Counselor Pogswood,
Tim, yes.
Counselor Tidy,
Yes.
Counselor Velisis, yes. Thank you, David, for your work and getting all these details finalized. I know it's this was sort of the final extra chapter that you didn't realize you were going to have to do, but we really appreciate your help in helping us get things straightened out.
Thank you, and I appreciate that.
David,
Wonderful.
thank you so much. It's been a pleasure working with you.
Yes. From all of us.
Yeah, all of us really appreciate you, David. So have a fabulous weekend and thanks for coming to a Friday meeting, and have a fabulous weekend and a fabulous 4th.
Night, Dave.
Okay, so next item on the agenda is the RFQ, which is the request for, where is this? Oh, here it is.
Yeah, it's on the bottom. That's the last one.
Okay, so Melissa, would you like to explain this to us?
Yeah, so the community building, we're working with a group in Rotary, actually, and the city was awarded a CBD grant for approximately $2.5 million at the beginning of 2024, and we need to have that allocated and spent by January of 26. We put out, on May 1st, we put out an RFQ for an architect and left it open that whole time. And on June 11th, this was the one that we had received by then. Also, the HGE Architects Incorporated, led by Joe Slack, they were the ones who did the original drawings and kind of vision of what that project could be. And so now we need to go into, an agreement that they would be the ones that continue working on this to look at the community building. And they are actually two separate things. So this grant that we're working with CCD
CCD and the community
and the
center
community
friends.
center friends, yes, are specifically on the community building only, so the facade across both and the community building. But I believe that the Rotary Club would very much like to add, if they collect enough money, to be able to also add the American Legion Hall to that, to put some money towards that. But we have to keep those separate, because the major grant that we're working with and the information is specifically for the community building piece. But the architect, when he gave this RFQ, wuzzled them together on the idea that hopefully we could do all of it. But again, that's why we just need to be really specific, especially for the CCD folks, that the major grant is on the community building, and then the American Legion Hall, if available.
And the way it's been put together actually is the architect, HGE, the primary proposal is section 5, the cost proposal. And the section 7 is what's called an alternative. So I think that what we're doing is we're going to probably be we're going to be authorizing Melissa to enter into negotiations to develop 2 contracts, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
So
For each building?
for each project,
Because we want them separated out.
we need to have them separated.
Yeah.
Correct.
So this basically, what you'll be doing is allowing me to move forward and say, yes, this is a reasonable situation. And we've talked about this before, and he's done some work, again, kind of with the general information that they had for quite a while. This is the same company that did it before.
Mhm.
And so this is basically just their application to continue on with the project. So what we're asking council to do is, if we feel that this is a good option, and that because it's been open as long as it has and all that you are allowing me to move forward with this company to negotiate and to get that taken care of.
So you want questions now, or you want a
Sure.
motion in a second?
Okay, why don't you do make a motion in a second now, and then we'll try to do Robert's rules to the T.
Okay, so I would make a motion um, to approve the architect RFQ.
I'll second that.
Okay, questions?
My question is, does the grant cover the cost of this architect?
Yes,
100%.
100%.
Okay,
The grant covers it, and the secondary one, that we're talking about, as Melissa says, that's totally dependent on it's actually not the Rotary, it's called the Community Center Friends, but there's overlap. The Rotary has a charitable fund that is being their fiscal sponsor, and so there's a lot of overlap with people. They already have enough money in their fund to do this, and they're working on major fundraiser. They're going to try to raise another $400,000.
okay. It's just of utmost importance that they be
Correct.
separated out and the monies are there. We can't afford a mistake in this.
Right.
Yes, and it's also this is going to be a federal grant, the Community Development Block Grant, and there's lots of, as you recall, all winter we've been kind of passing little, policies and difference. They're very persnickety. So that's the other thing whereby we have to keep everything totally separate, and our accounting has to be perfect, which is why Lehigh at CCD is helping us. But anyway.
Thank you.
Okay, any further questions? Greg, any from you?
No, ma'am, I'm good.
Okay. So the recommended motion, do you think that the motion to proceed that Tim did will suffice? There was a recommended motion to authorize Melissa to
Okay, I
negotiate the
can,
thing.
I just want to make sure that, because at this
Correct.
point because it's
Yeah.
What you-
separate. I need to interact with them, but I need you folks to feel comfortable that we've done what we need to do on our side as far as procurement and for bidding and leaving it open and letting that play out, that you're granting that, yes, I can,
Okay.
And that we understand, that you understand.
that it should be all grant funded and not out of us. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I can withdraw that motion and go with,
And I'll withdraw the second.
okay.
Okay.
So I would make a motion to authorize City Administrator Radcliffe to enter into negotiations for the contract on the renovations.
And I'll second that.
Okay. I'll call for the question. Councillor Burns,
Yes.
Councillor Pogswood,
Tim, yes.
Councillor Tidy,
Yes.
Councillor Velisis, yes. Excellent. Thank you. This is super exciting. I should have just said, when I looked at his proposal and saw
Oh,
all the other buildings that they've
very
done,
impressive.
it's
Yeah.
very exciting. And I'm so excited about the energy that the community members that are working on this are bringing to this. It's really great.
Yes.
So we are super psyched. Okay, so that brings us to the right of ways and the OLCC permit. Why don't we do the OLCC permit first, since Larry is still here? He's requested us to approve this temporary sales license. So let's just take a moment to look at it.
I would make a motion to approve the temporary OLCC sales license for the Rotary Club of Port Orford.
I'll second.
Okay, I've got a first and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, let's call for the vote. Councillor Burns,
Yes.
Councillor Pogswood,
Tim, yes.
Councillor Tidy,
Yes.
Councillor Velisis, yes.
Look
Okay.
forward to attending. Thank you, Larry.
Thank you, Larry. That sounds like a really fun event, and
Yeah.
hopefully it will be a great success. Okay, now we're moving on to the right-of-way licenses. So let's take up first the one that Ashley Moore has put forth, which will be the one for Tishner and Washington Street. Um, so
So this is one that I can speak to. I think last year, this would be the second year that this has been done. When I very first started, Ashley was one of the first people to come in to talk about this, but being brand new, I didn't know the right of ways and how that all went or anything else. And so we now have the proper, figured out what it should have and everything else. And last year they had done a Hometown Heroes run. And so it's been done before. And so I wanted to bring it forward now that she had the proper paperwork, so that people would know what was happening and where it was closing the street for part of the day in August to have the fun run.
So the thing I just would emphasize what Tim is saying about this is that, we don't have the date of the closure. We don't have a map. It makes it, it would really be great to have the full on information, but thank you. And I think for explaining it to us.
Well, and I think we could bring it, I mean, it could be brought to the next meeting too. I mean, I know that they would like to advertise and things, but it is in August. I think she just really wanted to get it in front of the council. So my understanding, if I'm remembering correctly, is that she just knew that last year it took quite a while, so she wanted to get it in as early as possible so it could be approved.
So they're doing the exact same project and the exact same fundraiser in the exact same place or not?
I cannot
Yes,
speak to exactly what happened last year.
yes,
Great.
that's what they said.
That,
That's my
that's,
understanding.
okay.
Yeah, so I don't know that part. I just know she had mentioned they did it last year and that they didn't really have a good process with it and it was just kind of signed off. And I said, I don't know the process. I think this is the way we need to go through it.
So if we approve this tonight, can you get the information that Ann just spoke of? The map, the date, those kinds of things that, we can inform citizens if we need to and those kinds of things?
Of
Thrown in
course.
your
Okay.
admin report for next month, or on your Friday admin report.
Yeah, I can do that.
We appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that way she knows she can
Yep.
go ahead and get started.
Yeah.
Yep,
Mhm.
they can advertise and that kind of
Absolutely.
thing.
Yeah. And it's just, like these things that like Tim has mentioned or that I brought up, we're all still trying to improve. We're still the diamond. We're still improving, polishing the diamond. So,
Oh, well, we're,
okay, maybe that's not the best metaphor,
Well,
but
we're
but
still
it's
work
trying
in
to figure out
progress.
what the process is. And I'm still trying to figure out what the process is for these things and to do it. And
yeah.
Yeah, and like this form, it says the assessor's map and the lot number, it would be super helpful to just know where it is and
okay.
what the date of the event is, or a little bit more
It'll
information.
just help us be able to explain it if a citizen calls in and say, hey, they're putting up barriers on this road or my road or
Right.
whatever road. And we just have more information that way and we can relay it. So
Yeah.
Right.
I would make a motion to approve the right-of-way usage license for the Sixes Rural Fire Department.
I'll second that.
Any further questions or concerns? I'll call for the vote. Councillor Burns,
Yes.
Councillor Pogswood,
Tim, yes.
Councillor Tidy,
Yes.
Councillor Velisis, yes. Okay, the last thing, or the last item here, the right-of-way usage for Charter Spectrum on Stagecoach Lane. And so, Greg, you're not seeing this, right? Or do you have a copy of this?
It's the one I do not see currently. No.
I didn't quite hear your answer to that. Could you say that again? Oh, you don't
No,
have it.
I,
Okay.
no, I don't have this one.
So it says that they will be proofing and placing a 0.625 cable inside an empty 2-inch conduit all along the north side of Stagecoach Lane, is what they're saying. And here, John Isidore's report says they're moving it to the east side of the road. And he's asking for them to contact Public Works for a site meeting prior to the work.
And looking at this application, I do see that they
You
started
rock, Joseph.
started trying to make communication with us, it looks like in May of 2024, May 24th of 2024. So this looks like perhaps we should have already seen it, but anyway, um,
I think there's been this question of like, are the right of ways coming to us or not? And,
right.
you know, so-
Right. And I think that's why we added these, because in the last meeting, it was said that you folks wanted to see all the right of ways and know all of those. And I know that people, as they get these in, are trying to get them done. And I wouldn't have brought it to you in May or whatever, because it wasn't something that
Correct.
we were told to, until last meeting to do that. So
Right.
that's why you wouldn't have
I'm
necessarily
okay with
seen.
getting these done. We're already here, so let's get them done.
Yeah.
So I would make a motion to approve the city right-of-way usage license for Charter Spectrum um, with the conditions set forth by our Public Works Superintendent, John Isidore.
I'll second that.
Any further comments or questions?
I do have a comment on this. Also included, just for Counselor Tidy's information, I saw this yesterday come through and it said, please see a diagram, and there wasn't a diagram. So I emailed, or actually I called this woman, Liza Jernigan, and asked for the information, and that's where the map came from. And then she sent me an email again yesterday afternoon that said, thanks for your call. I found an email when I spoke to Joseph on the 18th. He let me know about the reroute to the other side of the street, but I discovered that we are doing only a proof and place in existing conduit. So no trenching or boring will be done. So
But
please see the attached document. So I still wanted to bring it forward to you so that you could see what the proposal was still happening. But that was the follow-up on this.
and I'm not an expert on this kind of stuff, but I know a little bit about it. But they are going to be setting an anchor, and typically those anchors for guy wires are quite deep into the ground. They could hit something.
Mhm.
So,
Condition applies.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm just glad to hear that they're not going to be boring or trenching.
Yeah.
We've had enough.
And I just from seeing, I recently had, I think, something like this in my neighborhood where the area of the right of way is kind of left a wreck, like trashiness and cones and wires hanging out and like a whole bunch of vegetation removed that actually looked to extend onto private property. So I would just hope that a company that is professional would try to leave things in good order. But
We should be able to lean on them a little bit if in fact they did do that.
yeah,
So,
I don't know what company it was, but
Yeah.
anyway.
well,
And I think what's hard too with some of these is that there's many of the boring companies are actually subcontractors. It's not, it's not necessarily Charter that's doing it. They subcontract with other places and we have about three or four maybe different boring companies that are doing a lot of these things. So, but I would be interested to know where that came from.
they do fall under Spectrum because Spectrum is applying.
Right.
And same with the other company that's
Right.
currently working in town. And Joseph has some information.
I was going to ask for him to share that.
I believe if you wanted to, you could rescind the motion and then remake the motion with the addendum of, making the condition, they have to leave the area as close to how it is now as possible, or similar such phrasing.
Thank
Okay,
you for that recommendation. I kind of like that.
I'll rescind my motion.
I'll rescind my second.
I would make a second motion for the city right-of-way usage license for Charter Spectrum doing business as Cablecom LLC to follow the conditions of our Public Works Superintendent, John Isidore, and to leave all sites as close to the condition they were found as possible.
And I'll second that.
Any further comments or questions or considerations? No, I will call for the vote. Councillor Burns,
Yes.
Councillor Pogswood,
Tim, yes.
Councillor Tidy,
Yes.
Councillor Velisis, yes. Okay. we have gotten through all the business in this meeting, and I just want to make a little space. Does anybody have anything further to share before we adjourn?
We all see the email that the striping's not going to happen on Monday night now, Sunday night?
Yeah, that's a good thing to announce, Greg. Did you all see that? I'm going to just state it again because to make it easy to hear, we all got the ODOT announcement that the striping will not occur Sunday night and will not occur next week because of a broken striping machine. So it's not only
Oh.
us who has weird things happen that get in the way of your plans. Did you have something, Joseph, to add?
It might relate to that, but we also got an announcement from ODOT that there is to be no parking on the highway on Sunday or Monday.
Well, that's what's
Yeah,
been
that
changed.
was it.
Okay, that's
So
what
now we
was,
just,
okay,
yeah.
sure.
The first announcement was that there was going to be no parking, and the second announcement is their striping machine got broken or something happened to it, so they cannot proceed. So that means there's going to be no striping on Sunday and Monday. There's going to be no striping next week at all because of the 4th, so they will resume the striping beyond. And then I just want to make one other another announcement in that vein, which is I was talking to the Forest Service District Ranger yesterday, and he said they bumped up the fire caution level, and it will be starting on Saturday night at midnight. There will be a restriction on campfires. Can only be in campfire rings. And, there are cases where people have seen people just lighting fires up Elk River Road or things like that. And if you see fires outside the campfire, they, of course, want people to report that. So to share that information with you guys and with it's, because we're getting into fire season. So it's a good thing to be aware of.
And all those restrictions are available on Coos Forest, I believe.
Yeah, they would be shared on that too, I assume. Okay, so barring any other things to add, we will adjourn this meeting at 6:15, and I wish you all a good rest of your week, everyone.
Thank you.